The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council stretched upward into darkness, its ceiling lost among the shifting lights of artificial stars. Representative James Walker stood at the speaker's podium, his plain black suit standing out among the colorful robes and shimmering scales of the assembled alien delegates. He was humanity's voice in this chamber, and today he would make their case for full membership in the galactic community. Distinguished members of the council, Walker began, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. Earth and its colonies have met all requirements for membership. Our technology has advanced to the required levels. Our societies have shown stability. We come seeking friendship and cooperation. Whispers echoed through the chamber. Many of the alien representatives turned to their neighbors, their expressions impossible to read. Some had too many eyes, others had none at all. Walker had spent months learning their customs, but still felt like an outsider. High above, Council Leader Bluestone, as humans called him for his crystal-like skin, raised a limb for silence. "We have reviewed Earth's application," he said, his translator making his clicks and whistles into clear words. "However, there are concerns about your species' aggressive tendencies." Walker had expected this. He opened his mouth to respond, but another voice cut through the chamber. "Stop!" The word boomed across the hall. From the shadows of the ancient species section, a figure emerged. The alien was tall and thin, its skin like old paper, its eyes deep pools of gathered wisdom. Walker recognized it as an elder, one of the first species to achieve space travel. "I must speak," the elder said, floating down to the main floor. "You cannot simply treat this as another membership application. The humans, they are different." Council Leader Bluestone's crystal skin flickered with annoyance. "Elder Whiteleaf, this is not your concern. Your species gave up voting rights centuries ago. I speak not to vote, but to warn." The elder moved closer to the center. "I have watched humanity since they first reached for the stars. They are not like the other young races." Walker stood quietly, watching the exchange. This was unexpected, but he knew better than to interrupt. "In what way?" asked a representative from the Warrior Claw Kingdom, their armored hide gleaming under the lights. The elder's voice grew grave. "They do not think like us. When faced with impossible odds, they do not surrender. When told something cannot be done, they try anyway. And most importantly," the elder paused, looking around the chamber, "when struck, they do not forget." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Walker noticed it came mainly from the younger species representatives. "Surely you exaggerate," said Bluestone. "All species fight. All species remember." "No," the elder insisted. "You do not understand. Let me tell you what I have seen. 20 Earth years ago, when humans first achieved faster-than-light travel, a pirate group attacked one of their colony ships. The ship was destroyed. The normal response would be to increase defenses and avoid that region." The elder's eyes swept the room. Instead, the humans hunted down every single pirate, not just the ones who attacked them. Every single one. It took them 5 years, but they did not stop. They adapted their ships, learned new tactics, and kept going until the job was done. The pirates had hidden among 6 different species territories. Now they are gone. Murmurs filled the chamber again, but this time with less amusement. "That is why I say to you all now, do not strike at humanity. Do not think them weak because they are young. If you attack them, they will not stop until they find you. They will not forget. They will not give up." Walker watched as several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. He hadn't known about the elder's observations, but everything it said was true. Humanity's response to threats had always been thorough. Bluestone waved a crystalline limb dismissively. "Thank you for your colorful warning, Elder. However, the council will proceed with its normal deliberations. Representative Walker, you may continue." But before Walker could speak, the elder floated directly in front of Bluestone. "You are making a mistake. I have seen the reports some of you have hidden. I know certain council members plan to strike at Earth's colonies. You think to eliminate a potential threat before it grows too strong. The elder's voice carried to every corner of the chamber. I tell you now, if you do this, you will create exactly what you fear. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Representatives shouted accusations and denials. Walker stood silently, his mind racing. If what the elder said was true, Earth needed to prepare. This session is suspended, Bluestone announced, his crystal skin flashing with angry colors. Clear the chamber. As the representatives filed out, Walker noticed several members of the militant species gathering in a corner, speaking in hushed tones. The elder's words had not scared them. They had hardened their resolve. Later that night, in his temporary quarters on the council station, Walker sent an encrypted message to Earth's Defense Command. He chose his words carefully. Weather forecast shows storm approaching. Elder suggests preparing umbrellas. Then he sat back and looked out at the artificial stars dotting the station's dome. The elder's warning echoed in his mind. Humanity had indeed come seeking friendship, but they had never backed down from a fight. If the council really was planning an attack, they were about to learn exactly why the elder had warned them. In a secure chamber deep within the council station, 13 representatives gathered in secret. Their species were among the most militant in the galaxy, and all shared the same fear: humanity's rapid rise. The elder's warning changes nothing, said the representative from the Claw Kingdom. If anything, it proves we must strike now, before they grow stronger. Agreed, chittered another. Our analysis shows their colonies are vulnerable. A swift, coordinated attack will end this before it begins. The elder speaks of human vengeance, a third voice added, but dead species cannot seek revenge. They spent the next hours planning humanity's destruction, confident in their superior numbers and technology. None of them noticed the small maintenance drone in the corner, its camera feeding directly to Walker's secure tablet. As Walker watched the feed, he sent another message to Earth. Storm confirmed. Lightning expected. Zeus Protocol recommended. The response came quickly. Zeus Protocol activated. Thunder rolls in 3 days. Walker deleted both messages and looked again at the stars. The council had ignored the elder's warning. Soon they would learn why that was a mistake. Humanity had not come this far to be eliminated by those who feared their potential. In the shadows of the station, the elder watched and waited. It had done what it could to prevent the coming conflict. Now it would watch as history proved its warning true. The humans would not just survive what was coming. They would reshape the galaxy in response to it. The pieces were set. The Council's secret attack forces gathered in the darkness of space. Earth's defenses quietly prepared for the storm. And in 3 days, the galaxy would learn exactly why the Elder had warned them. Never strike at humanity unless you are prepared for them to hunt you forever. The first shots would be fired soon. The Council thought it would be a swift execution of a young species. They were wrong. It would be the beginning of a hunt that would change everything. The attack came at dawn, Earth Standard Time. On the colony world of New Hope, children were walking to school when the sky turned purple. Defensive systems barely had time to sound the alarm before the first shots hit. Green beams of light sliced through the morning mist, cutting buildings in half as if they were made of paper. "Get to the shelters," shouted Captain Thomas of the Colony Defense Force. His team had been ready. Walker's warning had given them 3 precious days to prepare. But the sheer size of the assault still took his breath away. The entire sky was filled with alien ships, their hulls gleaming like angry jewels in the morning sun. In orbit, the colony's 3 defense ships faced off against 30 attackers. "Remember the drills," Commander Roberts broadcast to her crew. "We just need to hold them long enough for the evacuation." Her ship, the Thunderchild, was already moving to protect the civilian transports. The Council forces had expected an easy victory. They had brought overwhelming numbers, their best weapons, and their most experienced commanders. They thought they were ready for anything humans might do. They were wrong. The Thunder Child didn't try to fight the alien fleet head-on. Instead, it launched what looked like debris, chunks of metal and broken satellites. The alien ships ignored these, their sensors showing them as space junk. That was their first mistake. Each piece of debris contained a tiny quantum bomb, a new human weapon developed after Walker's warning. When they detonated, they didn't explode. Instead, they created micro-black holes that lasted for just a fraction of a second, long enough to tear holes in 5 alien ships. Impossible. The alien fleet commander sputtered. Their technology isn't supposed to be this advanced. But humans had learned long ago. When someone plans to kill you, the rules about technological development become very flexible. On the ground, the situation looked grim. Alien ground forces had landed, their armor making them seem invincible as they marched through the streets. They were tall, covered in metallic scales that deflected normal weapons, and carried guns that could melt through concrete. Captain Thomas watched from his command center as they approached the city center. "Wait for it," he said into his radio. "Let them get closer." The aliens marched forward, confident in their victory. Their intel said this was one of humanity's strongest colonies, but the resistance seemed pathetic. No one was even shooting at them anymore. That was their second mistake. When the alien forces reached the city center, Thomas pressed a button. The ground beneath the aliens' feet suddenly turned to liquid, a sea of nanobots that had been disguised as normal road material. As the aliens struggled, the nanobots began climbing up their armor, finding tiny gaps and seeping inside. Within minutes, half the invasion force was blind, their helmet visors covered in a layer of microscopic machines that blocked all vision. The other half found their weapons wouldn't fire, the same nanobots having worked their way into the firing mechanisms. "Now," Thomas ordered. Human defenders emerged from hidden bunkers, wearing simple body armor and carrying what looked like primitive projectile weapons. The aliens actually laughed when they saw them. That was their third mistake. The primitive guns fired electromagnetically accelerated rounds that could punch through the aliens' armor like it was wet paper. Each shot was guided by a tiny AI that could adjust its trajectory mid-flight. The defending forces had been practicing with these weapons for the past 3 days straight. In orbit, the battle took another turn. The civilian ships hadn't been running away. They'd been getting into position. Each transport was packed not with refugees, but with swarms of combat drones. When the ships opened their cargo bays, thousands of small, fast-moving targets filled space. The alien fleet's advanced targeting systems were overwhelmed. They couldn't lock onto the tiny drones, and their energy weapons were designed to hit large targets, not swarms of small ones. The drones attacked like angry bees, each one carrying a small but powerful explosive charge. "This is not possible," the alien commander shouted as another of his ships exploded. "They're supposed to be primitives. We had years of intelligence." In his command center, Thomas allowed himself a grim smile. "Yeah," he muttered. "Intelligence that we fed you." The battle raged for 6 hours. By the end, the alien forces were in full retreat. They had lost half their ships and most of their ground forces. The human casualties were significant, 3,000 dead or wounded. But the colony still stood. As the alien fleet limped away, they received a transmission. It was broadcast on all frequencies, in all languages. "You should have listened to the elder. This was just one colony. We have dozens. And now we're coming for you." The message was signed simply, "Humanity." Back on Earth, the Defense Council received reports from New Hope and the other colonies. Some had been hit harder than others, but none had fallen. The Zeus protocol had worked. Every colony had been prepared, every defender ready. "Send the second phase orders," General Rivers commanded. Her face was tired but determined. "All ships are to begin immediate pursuit of the retreating forces. I want to know where they came from." An aide looked up from his tablet. "But sir, some of those ships are faster than ours. They'll escape." Rivers smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. No, they won't, because we've had 3 days to plant quantum trackers on every supply ship that left the Council station. Wherever they run, we'll find them. In the depths of space, the retreating alien ships didn't realize they were already being followed. Human stealth ships, hidden in the darkness between stars, tracked their every move. Each alien vessel that thought it had escaped was actually leading humanity straight to its home base. On the Council station, Walker watched the reports come in. The Elder floated nearby, its paper-thin skin rustling softly. "You tried to warn them," Walker said. "They would not listen," the Elder replied. "Now they will learn why they should have." Walker nodded, looking at the latest casualty reports. 3,000 humans dead or wounded. In previous wars between Council species, such losses would have led to immediate surrender negotiations. But humans were different. Those 3,000 deaths wouldn't lead to surrender. They would fuel what was coming next. "We didn't want this war," Walker said softly. "But they're about to learn something important about humanity." "And what is that?" the Elder asked, though it already knew the answer. "The difference between soldiers and hunters." Walker's voice was quiet but firm. "Soldiers stop fighting when they're ordered to. Hunters never stop. Not until they've found their prey." As if to emphasize his words, another report flashed across his tablet. Human ships were now moving into position throughout Council space. The alien forces thought they had escaped. They were about to learn otherwise. The hunt was beginning. 6 months after the attack on Earth's colonies, the galaxy had changed. The Council's mighty fleets no longer patrolled their trade routes with confidence. Instead, they moved in large groups, weapons always ready, jumping at shadows. They had good reason to be afraid. Commander Jack Miller stood on the bridge of the Shadow Hunter, studying the holographic display of a Council supply route. His ship was hidden in the tail of a comet, invisible to normal sensors. This was the 3rd ambush position they'd taken this week. "Contact," his sensor officer whispered. 3 Council cargo ships, 2 escorts. "Heading matches intelligence predictions." Miller nodded, just like clockwork. "Status of our friends." "Bloodfang and Nightwalker are in position," his communications officer reported. "They're ready." The Council ships moved slowly through space, their crews tense but hopeful. They had made this run 6 times now without seeing any human vessels. Maybe they were finally safe. That hope died when 3 human warships appeared out of nowhere, surrounding them. "Council vessels," Miller broadcast. "You have 2 choices: surrender and live, or resist and lose everything. You have 30 seconds to decide." The Council escorts immediately opened fire. Their energy weapons lit up space like artificial suns. But the human ships weren't there anymore. This was humanity's new trick, learned from studying the wreckage of Council ships. They had cracked the secret of short-range teleportation. While the Council used it only for cargo transport, humans had weaponized it. The Shadow Hunter appeared behind the Council ships, its guns already firing. The new human weapons weren't energy beams or missiles. They were simple metal slugs, accelerated to near light speed by gravity drives. They punched through Council shields like they weren't even there. "Interesting," Miller noted as the Council ships exploded. "They still haven't adapted their shields to handle kinetic weapons. They're too dependent on energy-based technology." Back on Earth, in the newly built war room, General Rivers studied reports from 100 similar battles. Humanity's hit-and-run tactics were working better than anyone had expected. The Council forces, used to fighting large-scale battles with clear front lines, couldn't adapt to an enemy that struck from nowhere and disappeared just as fast. "Another supply convoy destroyed," an aide reported. "That's the 6th this week. The Council's outer colonies are starting to suffer supply shortages." Rivers nodded. "And the tracking data. Every surviving ship is leading us straight to their hidden bases, just as planned. They still haven't found our quantum trackers." The quantum trackers were humanity's masterstroke, microscopic devices that attached to ship hulls. undetectable by Council technology, sending their location through quantum entanglement. No signal to trace, no transmissions to detect, just pure science turned into a weapon. In Council space, the alien leaders were meeting in emergency session. "This is impossible," the Claw Kingdom representative shouted. "How are they finding every ship, every base? We're using stealth technology that took us centuries to develop." Bluestone's crystal skin had lost its shine. "Our attacks on their colonies failed. Now they're hunting us one by one." The Elder's warning. "Do not speak of the Elder," another representative snapped. "This is already bad enough without reminding us of our mistakes." But their mistakes were catching up to them. Human ships had been spotted in supposedly secure systems. Supply lines were being cut. Hidden bases were being found and destroyed. And worst of all, humans weren't killing everyone they caught. They were letting survivors go. Survivors who spread stories of human power, human mercy, and human determination. On a Frontier Council world, Miller's team made another discovery. His engineers were studying captured Council technology when they found something interesting. "Sir," his chief engineer called, "we've cracked their hyperspace communications. They've been using the same encryption for 100 years. Never thought anyone would catch up to their tech level fast enough to break it." Miller smiled. "Can we track their communications?" "Better. We can read them. All of them. And sir, they're terrified. Half their worlds are ready to surrender just to avoid facing us." This was what humanity did best. Not just fighting, but learning, adapting, taking their enemies' strengths and turning them into weaknesses. The Council had thought their technological advantage would make for an easy victory. Instead, each piece of their technology captured by humans was quickly understood, improved, and turned against them. In the Council's secure command center, warnings flashed across screens. Human ships had been detected near their homeworlds. Somehow, they had crossed vast distances without using the standard hyperspace routes. "How?" a Council commander demanded. "The hyperspace routes are fixed by physics. They can't just make new ones." But humans had learned something the Council had forgotten. The rules of physics were more like guidelines if you were desperate enough to try new things. Earth's scientists, driven by the need to protect their species, had discovered that hyperspace routes weren't fixed at all. They were just the easy paths. With enough power and the right calculations, ships could jump anywhere. The Council's careful network of hyperspace routes, built up over thousands of years, was now useless. Humans could appear anywhere, at any time. On the Shadowhunter, Miller received new orders from Earth Command. "Phase 3 is authorized," he read aloud to his crew. "We're taking the fight to their core worlds." His crew cheered. After 6 months of hit-and-run attacks, they had worn down the enemy's strength. Now it was time for the killing blow. But first, Miller had a message to send. The Shadowhunter broadcast on all frequencies, using the Council's own communication networks. "Attention all Council worlds. 6 months ago, you attacked our colonies. You thought we would be easy prey. Instead, we have hunted you across the galaxy. Your ships run from shadows. Your worlds tremble at rumors of our approach. But it doesn't have to continue." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We offer the same choice we've always offered. Surrender. Help us find those responsible for the attack on our colonies. Do this, and you will find humans can be friends as easily as we can be enemies. You have 24 hours to decide." The Council leaders received the message in their bunkers. They had started this war thinking they were the hunters. Now they huddled in the dark, jumping at shadows, while human ships prowled through their most secure systems. The Elder's warning echoed in their minds. They will not stop. They will not forget. They will hunt you forever. They hadn't listened. Now they were paying the price. The hunt was entering its final phase, and humanity was closing in. The 24-hour deadline passed. Across Council space, worlds made their choices. 30 systems surrendered immediately. 20 more followed in the next hour. But the core worlds, led by the militant species who had planned the original attack, chose to fight. They would regret that decision. Commander Miller stood on the bridge of the Shadow Hunter, now part of the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. 500 warships filled the space around him, each one carrying technology that hadn't existed 6 months ago. All ships report ready, his communications officer announced. Earth Command has given the go-ahead for Operation Daybreak. Miller nodded. Send the final warning. Throughout Council space, every communication device received the same message. You were warned. You didn't listen. Now face the consequences. The human fleet split into 3 groups. The first, led by Miller, would strike at the Council's military bases. The second would protect the worlds that had surrendered. The third would hunt down the leaders who had ordered the original attack on Earth's colonies. On the Council capital world, Bluestone stared at his tactical displays in horror. Human ships were appearing everywhere, bypassing all their defenses using their new hyperspace technology. But what terrified him most was their precision. They weren't bombing cities. They weren't killing civilians. Every human strike targeted military installations, government buildings, and command centers. They were performing surgery with warships. Surrender, his advisors begged. Look at what they're doing. They're giving us a chance to live. But Bluestone's pride wouldn't let him. Launch everything we have. Every ship, every weapon. The Council's remaining fleets rose to meet the human attack. They had better ships, more advanced weapons, and thousands of years of military tradition. None of it mattered. The human ships danced through space like they were alive, teleporting short distances to dodge energy beams, firing those simple but devastating kinetic weapons. Council ships exploded by the dozens, their mighty shields useless against chunks of metal moving at near light speed. On the Shadowhunter's bridge, Miller watched the battle through enhanced displays. They still don't understand, he said quietly. They think this is about revenge. His second-in-command looked at him. Isn't it? Miller shook his head. No, this is about making sure no one ever tries to destroy humanity again. Sometimes the best way to prevent a fight is to show exactly what you can do if pushed. The battle in space was impressive, but the real action was happening in secret. While the Council's forces were distracted by the fleet battle, small teams of human special forces were infiltrating their worlds. These teams carried humanity's latest weapon, a computer virus that could infect the Council's quantum computers. In the 6 months since the war began, human scientists had learned enough about Council technology to hack it completely. One by one, Council defense systems began shutting down. Weapons wouldn't fire. Shields failed. Communications stopped working. Years of depending on advanced technology had left them vulnerable to an enemy who understood how that technology worked. Sir, Miller's sensor officer called out. Multiple Council ships are powering down. They're surrendering. It started with a few ships, then became a flood. Council captains, seeing their weapons and shields fail, chose to live rather than die pointlessly. The mighty Council fleet was surrendering not with a bang, but with a whimper. On the Council capital world, Bluestone received desperate messages from his commanders. Our weapons are useless. Our communications are compromised. The humans are inside every system. Then a new voice came over his command center speakers. It was Walker, the human representative they had dismissed so easily months ago. This is your final chance, Walker said calmly. Surrender now. Order your forces to stand down, or we will be forced to demonstrate our full capabilities. Bluestone laughed bitterly. You're bluffing. What more could you possibly do? Look at your son. Bluestone turned to the window. The capital world's star was changing color, shifting from yellow to red, then back again. That's impossible, he whispered. No species can affect a star. We couldn't 6 months ago, Walker replied. It's amazing what humans can learn when properly motivated. Your son is now under our control. We can shut it down any time we want. But we won't, because we're not monsters. We just want you to understand that you cannot win. Not now. Not ever. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives who had supported the war were now screaming for surrender. Bluestone's crystal skin had turned pale, almost transparent with fear. In orbit, Miller received new signals. Council ships were powering down everywhere. Defense stations were going dark. The mighty Council military, which had fought to eliminate humanity in a swift strike, was surrendering completely. "Send word to all human ships," Miller ordered. "Accept their surrender. Treat prisoners with respect. Show them what humanity really is." Ground teams moved in to secure Council facilities. They found many of the leaders who had planned the original attack trying to flee. But there was nowhere to run. Human ships were everywhere. Human technology controlled their systems, and human determination had broken their will to fight. The Elder appeared in the council chamber, floating serenely among the panicked representatives. "I warned you," it said simply. "I told you what would happen if you struck at humanity. They are not like other species. They do not think like us. When faced with destruction, they do not accept it. They overcome. They adapt. They evolve." Walker joined the Elder, standing tall in his simple black suit. "Now you understand. Humanity doesn't want to rule you. We don't want revenge. We want to make sure this never happens again." He looked around the chamber, meeting alien eyes of all shapes and sizes. "You tried to destroy us because you feared what we might become. In doing so, you forced us to become exactly what you feared. But it's not too late to change that future." The council representatives looked at him, their earlier arrogance replaced by a mix of fear and hope. "Surrender," Walker said simply. "Help us find the last holdouts. Work with us to build something better than the council ever was. Show us that you can learn from mistakes." One by one, the representatives stepped forward to surrender. The war that was supposed to end humanity had instead remade the galaxy. In orbit, Miller watched the sun return to its normal color. Humanity had won, not just through superior firepower, but by being willing to learn, adapt, and show mercy even to those who had tried to destroy them. The hunt was over. Now came the hard part, building a peace that would last. But that was what humans did best. They took impossible situations and found ways to make them work. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was probably for the best. 1 year after the surrender, the galaxy gathered again in the council chamber. But this time, everything was different. The old council tower had been rebuilt, its design now a mixture of all species architecture. Humanity had insisted on this change. The new galaxy would be built on cooperation, not dominance. Walker stood at the center of the chamber, but not as a petitioner this time. He was here to oversee the formation of the new galactic alliance. Around him sat representatives from every spacefaring species, including those who had once tried to destroy humanity. "The war trials are complete," Walker announced. "Those directly responsible for planning the attack on Earth's colonies have been sentenced. But now we must look to the future." In the prison orbiting Earth, Bluestone and the other war leaders watched the proceedings on a simple screen. Their sentences were fair life imprisonment, but with chances to earn privileges through good behavior and helping with peace efforts. Humanity had proven its power not just through victory, but through mercy. Commander Miller, now Admiral Miller, stood beside Walker. His ship, the Shadow Hunter, was now a museum piece, a reminder of how quickly humans could advance when pushed. "The past year has taught us all important lessons," Miller said to the gathered representatives. "We learned that fear of the unknown can lead to terrible mistakes, but we also learned that enemies can become friends, if given the chance." He wasn't just speaking empty words. In the past year, humanity had shared many of its technological advances with former Council worlds. Not the weapons, those would be carefully controlled, but medical technology, improved space travel methods, and new forms of energy production. The Elder floated forward, its paper-thin skin now decorated with symbols of both human and Council origin. "When I warned the old Council about humanity, I spoke of their determination and their difference from other species, but I did not mention their greatest strength. The chamber grew quiet, remembering how right the elder's last warning had been. Humans, the elder continued, have an extraordinary ability to forgive. They fought with incredible power, yes, but once victory was achieved, they immediately began helping their former enemies. This is why they are truly different. This is why they will lead us to a better future. Walker nodded. The Galactic Alliance will be different from the Council. No species will rule over others. All voices will be heard. And most importantly, we will face challenges together, not tear each other apart out of fear. On screens across the galaxy, billions of beings watched as the new alliance took shape. The changes were already visible. Ships from former enemy species now patrolled together. Scientists from different worlds worked side by side, sharing knowledge that had been hoarded for centuries. In Earth's orbit, a new station was under construction. Built by all species working together, it would serve as the headquarters for the Galactic Alliance. Its design incorporated elements from every member species, creating something entirely new. "But what about the weapons?" asked one of the representatives. "Humanity developed incredible military power. How can we trust that it won't be misused?" Miller stepped forward. "The same way you trust a strong person not to harm their friends. We created these weapons to defend ourselves. Now that we're allies, these advances will protect all of us from genuine threats." He gestured to the screens showing distant space. "There are still pirates out there. There are still dangers we haven't discovered. But now we face them together." The changes weren't just political. Trade between worlds had exploded as species shared their unique goods and knowledge. Human adaptability combined with Council experience had solved problems that had existed for centuries. Medical breakthroughs were saving lives across the galaxy. "A year ago," Walker said, "many of you feared humanity would seek revenge. Instead, we sought understanding. We learned your languages, studied your cultures, and found ways to work together. This is the real strength of humanity. Not our weapons or our technology, but our ability to adapt and cooperate." In the chamber's public gallery, a small human girl sat next to a young alien from one of the formerly hostile species. They were part of the first interspecies education program, learning each other's ways. The sight would have been unthinkable a year ago. The elder moved to the center of the chamber. The old council fell because it chose fear over understanding. The Galactic Alliance rises because it chooses cooperation over conflict. This is the legacy of the war, not destruction, but transformation. Walker raised his hand, and the chamber's holographic displays came to life. They showed images from across the galaxy, joint scientific missions, mixed species crews on exploration ships, new colonies being built by multiple species working together. "We have a saying on Earth," Walker said. "The best revenge is living well." We didn't want revenge. We wanted to create something better than what came before. Look around you. Look at what we've built together in just 1 year. Imagine what we can accomplish in a century. The voting began. One by one, representatives from every species confirmed their membership in the new Galactic Alliance. Even those who had fought against humanity most fiercely now voted to join, understanding that cooperation offered more than conflict ever could. As the final votes were counted, Miller looked out at the artificial stars that still dotted the chamber's ceiling. They were different now. Each one represented a real star system that was part of the Alliance. "Sometimes," he said quietly to Walker, "you have to show your strength before you can show your mercy." Walker nodded. The Council attacked because they feared what humanity might become. In doing so, they created exactly what they feared, but also something they never expected. What's that? A species that could win a war completely, but still choose peace. A people who could develop incredible weapons, but prefer to build schools and hospitals. They feared our strength, but they never understood our heart. The final vote was recorded. The Galactic Alliance was officially born. As cheers filled the chamber, the elder drifted over to Walker and Miller. I warned them about humanity's determination, it said. I should have also warned them about humanity's capacity for positive change. You have transformed the galaxy not through force, but through forgiveness. Outside the chamber, ships from 100 worlds flew in formation, their crews no longer divided by old fears and hatreds. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never strike at humanity, not because they will hunt you forever, but because they might just show you a better way to live. The war was over, the hunt had ended, and something new and wonderful had begun. The stars waited, ready for whatever would come next. But this time, the galaxy would face it together.